The motorsport world just got a big jolt. Arvid Lindblad has officially received his super license, opening the door for an early shot at Formula One. This sudden rise is creating serious tension, especially for Liam Lawson, who now finds himself walking a tightrope. There's one simple fact teams can't ignore: 3 drivers can't fit into just 2 seats. That's the challenge Racing Bulls is facing, as they now must figure out how to balance their current lineup while paving the way for Lindblad's entry. But is this really the best move for the team based in Italy? Let's start with Liam Lawson. Despite collecting 4 points for Racing Bulls, questions have started to swirl around his performance. After being shifted down from Red Bull, expectations were naturally high, but his results haven't quite met the mark. And now, a rising name from the Red Bull Academy, Arvid Lindblad, is waiting in the wings, and he's showing no signs of slowing down. Currently competing in Formula 2, Lindblad recently gained his super license through special exemption rules. That's no small deal. He even got a chance to take the wheel of F1 machinery during testing under TPC guidelines at Imola with Racing Bulls, and he left a strong impression on the people who matter most. His next big test, participating in Free Practice 1 at Silverstone. Once he's out on that track, all eyes will be locked on him. What if he ends up outperforming Lawson, Isa Kajar, or even Yuki Tsunoda? Suddenly their spots could be on the line. It's true, a single practice session isn't enough to fairly judge a driver's F1 readiness, but it could send a powerful message to the team. It might be exactly the push that leads to big decisions behind the scenes. One thing is clear: Arvid's opportunity in Silverstone isn't just a test session, it's a pressure cooker for everyone else in that car. Helmut Marko didn't leave much room for guessing. The experienced Austrian confirmed that Arvid Lindblad would be stepping into an F1 car during the Silverstone weekend. According to him, Lindblad spent half a day behind the wheel in Italy on Monday, with support from AASA, and will now handle Friday's practice session. What stood out to Marko wasn't just Lindblad's driving, it was his focus, confidence, and mental resilience. These qualities aren't always visible from the outside, but they make a huge difference once you're inside the cockpit. There's a deeper reason behind this preparation. Red Bull needs to stay ready in case something unexpected happens with Max Verstappen, especially when it comes to penalty points. Right now, there are only 2 available replacements: Lindblad and AASA. The challenge? AASA has overlapping duties in Japan, which makes the timing complicated. That leaves Lindblad as the more flexible option, and that's why he's being pushed into action sooner rather than later. But what truly matters is the test Lindblad completed with Racing Bulls in Imola. This wasn't some marketing shoot or casual event, it was a serious session under TPC guidelines. Sharing the track with AASA, who drove the AT04, Lindblad handled the car like someone who's done this before, even though he's still in the early stages of his career. And this is where things take a sharp turn for Lawson. Lindblad is being groomed to step into the sister team of Red Bull. That alone signals a possible shift in team strategy, and at the center of it is the question: will Liam Lawson be the one to lose his seat? His Red Bull spell didn't go as planned, and the rise of Hajar in 2025 hasn't helped his chances either. The contrast in form is beginning to hurt Lawson's case, and time may not be on his side. Now, while this isn't Lindblad's very first go in an F1 car, what happened recently can't be compared to his earlier runs, especially not to that light filming session he had in Imola back in February. This latest test was far more meaningful. He was driving a 2-year-old car with fewer restrictions, which allowed him to actually push the limits a bit more. And except for a couple of minor mistakes, like a few spins at the Variante Alta chicane, everything went about as smoothly as anyone could hope. So, what does this tell us about Lindblad's Formula One readiness? It points to a deliberate training program, one not unlike what Mercedes set up for Andrea Kimi Antonelli. The difference: Antonelli was publicly announced as a Mercedes driver before gathering experience. Lindblad, on the other hand, is being eased in quietly, perhaps to avoid too much early pressure or attention. But let's be clear, Lindblad making a sudden leap into Red Bull's main team is very unlikely right now, and that's precisely why Liam Lawson should be concerned. Among all the drivers connected to Red Bull, Lawson's seat appears to be the most unstable. There's a tiny possibility that Verstappen could leave in 2026, which would open a spot, maybe for Hajar. If that happens, and Yuki Tsunoda stays on, Lindblad might end up racing alongside Lawson if Lawson survives that long. That scenario, though, isn't ideal for the Kiwi. Going up against a sharp, rising talent like Arvid could be a lot to handle. It would turn every race into a hyper-share battle, and that's not a great space to be in for a driver already under scrutiny. And if the people in charge feel Lindblad needs more time, they'd want to see him first perform consistently. In Racing Bulls, in that case, there's only one seat they can free up, and Lawson's is the easiest one to move. Lindblad's move into Formula One is still at an early stage, but the message is loud and clear. He now has the license, the backing, and the car time. And that puts pressure not just on Lawson, but also on Yuki Tsunoda. While it's unlikely that Red Bull will rush Lindblad straight into the senior team, it raises an important question. Who makes way if they want to test him over a full season? Helmut Marko made it clear that while Verstappen's penalty points are a concern, they've lined up their options. But here's the catch. Finding someone race-ready on short notice isn't easy. That's why Lindblad is getting more and more track time. Meanwhile, AASA's split focus between Formula One and Japan leaves Red Bull with fewer reliable backup choices. Tsunoda's situation also isn't safe. Even though he's been in Formula One for 5 years now, his form hasn't been consistent. After the crash in Imola, he had a test session in Barcelona under TPC rules, and that seemed to help. But the clock is ticking. Just like Lawson, Tsunoda is in a position where he needs to prove his value, not just race by race, but lap by lap. Austria could be a turning point for Lawson. He knows this track well from his DTM experience. But this isn't the same racing world anymore. The pressure is different. Expectations are different, and the competition is intense. Even though Lawson tries to keep things steady on his side, the overall picture isn't going his way. At the same time, Hajar has been putting in strong performances. He's collecting points like no one else in the Red Bull program except Verstappen, of course. In a fair world, the top Racing Bulls performer should move to Red Bull, and someone new should fill that gap. But fairness doesn't always rule in Formula One politics. Timing and preparation matter just as much. Take Hajar, for example. Even though he's showing impressive form, he's not fully confident about jumping into Red Bull just yet. In one of his recent interviews, he said he'd take the opportunity if it came his way, but he also admitted he's not feeling completely ready. That kind of honesty is rare, but it adds an extra layer to Red Bull's driver selection puzzle. It makes little sense for the team to push someone into a situation they don't feel fully prepared for, especially with the stakes as high as they are. Hajar is still adjusting to life at Racing Bulls, and the team management clearly doesn't want to rush him. In fact, the CEO himself joked that he'd have to be handcuffed if someone tried to promote Hajar too early. He even added, "We want him to fully understand this environment before thinking about anything beyond 2026. That tells you all you need to know." Red Bull's leadership is serious about developing talent gradually, not just throwing young drivers into the deep end. This brings us back to the second seat at Red Bull. Yuki Tsunoda's place might seem shaky from the outside, but behind the scenes, they may just give him one more year. Christian Horner has said multiple times that expectations for that seat extend into 2025 and even beyond. Still, having expectations doesn't mean there will be changes right away. We also have to remember how demanding the Red Bull car can be. The engineers and decision-makers all agree. It's not easy to master, and with that in mind, maybe it's not fair to judge every driver by the same measure. Verstappen has adapted, yes, but not everyone can do what he does with that machine. Case becomes even more complicated when we look at the numbers. Over 10 race weekends this season, he's only managed to reach Q3 once. His early results in Australia and China were far from ideal, starting from the back of the grid twice, and only one decent qualifying performance. It's clear he's had trouble settling into the car, especially in the early part of the season. Many analysts believe his return to Racing Bulls wasn't just about performance. It might have been a strategic move to rebuild his confidence. But when Lawson was asked about this theory, he quickly dismissed it. According to him, his confidence has remained steady from last season through to now. He even said, scoring points in Monaco didn't really change how he feels. He's just been focused on doing the best job possible in whatever car he's in. Still, from a bigger perspective, things aren't leaning in his favor. If any change is to be made in the lineup, Lawson seems to be the most vulnerable. His first big test will be at Austria, a circuit he knows well. But even familiarity might not be enough this time, and with Lindblad getting his first outing in FP1 at Silverstone, both drivers could be on the track at the same time. That comparison might be crucial. It could shape how the team sees their future beyond 2025, and if things don't go well for Lawson, this might be one of the last chances he gets to prove himself. Meanwhile, there's still a debate about whether the car itself is making life harder for all the drivers. Tsunoda, despite 5 years of experience, has also struggled to get performance out of the RB21. This raises a fair question: how much of Lawson's struggle is actually his fault? Lindblad, on the other hand, is being given more support. With preseason tests and early track time, that kind of preparation helps a lot. In comparison, Lawson had a shorter runway, and while he did get a decent run of races last year to show what he could do, it might not have been enough. He's still holding out hope. But Formula One moves fast. Teams make hard choices. And sometimes, timing matters more than talent. So now the question is, will Lawson hold on to his place? Or is it time for Lindblad to step up? Only time and performance will tell.